So, in between all the goofing around at dinosaur museums, I have been keeping my ear open for the fallout from my last In God We Rust video. Most recently, I think there was a response from Inventor Gorilla just before I donated on his behalf to the Dinosaur Museum. And then there was a response from Rational Roundtable, also addressing this, and he kind of agrees with Forced Identity 00 that this shouldn't be just atheists who are, upset about "In God We Trust" on currency. This should be Christians as well, and at least from Rational Roundtable, I think that was actually a sincere sentiment. I really don't know about Forced Identity 00. Devin can be quite the joker sometimes. He could have been poing. He could have been serious. I don't know. One thing that has come out of all the comments and flame wars from this, the one thing that has stuck with me was when Inventor Gorilla said that me defacing currency the way that I have been doing is a slap in the face of all of the veterans that fight for our country. And I told him to look up flag burning arguments in court cases, and you would have to be a veteran to understand fully, like right away, intrinsically, every time this subject comes up, that as a veteran, I fought for someone's right to say things that I don't agree with, I might not agree with what you have to say, but I will die defending your right to say it. We said that so many times when I was a soldier. Anyways, recently, outside of the "In God We Trust" argument about currency, there was something that happened on NBC that had to do with the Pledge of Allegiance. And in the Pledge of Allegiance, they omitted "Under God Indivisible" from the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, the last time, to my knowledge, that this came up in any sort of serious capacity was in 2004, when the Supreme Court said that the words "under God" in the Pledge of Allegiance had lost their religious context and were purely a patriotic context. That was what Sandra Day O'Connor wrote in her majority opinion. She's soon to be leaving the court, by the way. So all of these things being brought up again might actually face different people under a different social pressure that sometimes it seems that the Supreme Court is under. Because on that day, they were not defending the minorities of this country. They were respecting the establishment of a religion that Congress had respected. And the check and balance system of our country had failed that day. But what I find interesting about her statements that the words "under God" in the Pledge of Allegiance had lost its religious connotation, and that whatever sectarian meaning the people who put it into the pledge had, it had lost its meaning, and somehow it had lost its meaning in just a span of 60 years. Really? That's how quickly meaning can be lost in one generation passing it on to another? That's how quickly you think that religious context can be lost. So I really do disagree with her opinion on that. And I have even more reason to disagree with it now, because if it's purely a patriotic context when the words under God are in the Pledge of Allegiance, then why isn't it the veterans of foreign wars standing up and saying and crying foul right now and saying, "Hey, NBC, why did you take out under God from the Pledge of Allegiance?" Why isn't it the American Legion? Why isn't it a whole bunch of veterans, the most patriotic people? Why aren't they screaming at NBC? You know who is, though? A group called the Family Research Council is pressing NBC right now. They've sent 15,000 letters to them. They've been calling them, and what their demands are. The demands of Family Research Council is that NBC should every morning have the Pledge of Allegiance with Under God in their programming. Every day, from now until eternity, they need to put that in their programming, because Family Research Council demands it as retribution for leaving it out once. Now, if you don't know who Family Research Council is, let me enlighten you. Family Research Council is actually a small group based in Washington, D.C. that falls under the umbrella of Focus on the Family. And I think you all are getting the picture here, because Focus on the Family is that same fundamentalist Christian right group that, opposes gay marriage, does a lot of other, far right activism, and there's no separating their agenda from Christianity. So, when you take it back to Sandra Day O'Connor's words, that the context of Under God was completely patriotic and not religious, and it was removed from the sectarian agenda that the people who put it into the pledge had. Think about this. Think about this really long and hard. Think about who is it that is fighting to get the words Under God back into the Pledge of Allegiance on NBC. Because it's not the Patriots. No, I think that patriots that have thought long and hard about this issue might recognize that the words Under God are more and more divisive as the culture of America becomes more diverse. The words Under God were put in during World Wars and the Red Scare, I think Cold War mentality here. Now, what I know about this mentality recently is that right after the September 11th attacks in 2001, we got something called the Patriot Act. And it was passed really quickly in the spirit of getting back at those that attacked us. And now we find that there are some patriots looking at this and saying, hey, wait a second, we just signed away a whole bunch of our rights. We made some hasty laws, and we need to look at this again. But you see, in the case of In God We Trust, on currency, and Under God in the pledge, the majority of people in this country are actually benefiting from that privilege being given to their religion. And they enjoy their religious privilege a lot. They don't want to give up any ground on that. So, we've got an uphill battle right here, because what it takes is to convince people who are actually getting these perks of the majority to realize how it's hurting the minority. And sometimes, they just don't want to give up what they have. So, as I've done in my other rants about this, I will once again do what's right to this currency. Alright, so this one, the first one, I'm going to dedicate to Michael, Rational Roundtable, because he said that he might agree that In God We Trust needs to be taken off currency. He just doesn't like doing things like this because it's illegal, Well, I'm going to say that this is not mala in se. This is mala prohibita here, okay? And just as homosexuals should be performing as much sodomy as possible when they love each other, and hell, men and women also have some butt sex, because you know what? It's your right to do it, and laws against it are completely unjust. Okay? So just like that, this one right here is dedicated to Rational Roundtable and butt sex. And this one right here, I am dedicated to a not so well known user named Michael Chick, because he asked me if I was willing to go to jail for what I was doing in a comment. I think we all know the answer.